Hello, my name's Tony Allen and I'm a member of the Cruise Lecturers Association. My background is quite varied. I had 30 years in the police in a variety of roles, but predominantly in the CID and predominantly in various ranks at Felixstowe, which led to me being able to talk about fighting the organised crime in the UK haulage industry. My second career was with DHL Logistics. I spent 16 years in the private sector and again fighting organised crime in the UK haulage industry. This time seeing it from the other side. I do two talks relating to the police. The first one, as you've heard, is fighting organised crime. It costs the country about £1 billion a year, and you learn the history because in the 70s the criminal gangs operating armed robberies used to be targeted by the police. They had to diversify because they were going to get huge sentences, and they found that they could actually start to steal complete lorry loads, and if they didn't get caught they're facing 3 years instead of 12 years. But the benefits were the same as if they were doing armed robberies. I'll let you know about how they operated, the terms and the slang involved, van dragging, diverted loads, corner game, hijacking, jump ups. But they all need one particular thing. They need a slaughter. And the slaughter is where the loads get taken to be slaughtered and dispensed with, or dispersed with. You will see one in action. It's a lorry being completely stripped down, and they do it in 2 hours, and I cut it down to 2 minutes, and it's fast forwarded. My second talk, related to police topics, is in 1994. Chief Constable phoned me up and said, "You're off to South Africa, phone this number, you're leaving in 4 days' time to help assist in the monitoring of the elections, the first free elections that South Africa experienced. And you'll be working with the South African police." So, 4 days later, I was flying to South Africa with 40 other superintendents, and together with Dutch staff officer, I was allocated 720 polling stations in the Transvaal, about 200 miles east of Johannesburg. It was an area which is full of townships, mines, power stations. I only had one polling station blown up in that period, I'm pleased to say. Another talk of mine is building the first Transcontinental railway across North America. And I've had a hobby of building model railways, American model railways, since I was a child. So this is a subject that's become quite dear to me. And my research into the actual building, I actually talk and give the viewpoint of the first Vice President of the Union Pacific. He was a Dr. Thomas Clark Durrant. He's a bright man. He was born in 1822. By the age of 18, he was a qualified doctor. By the age of 23, he was an assistant professor of surgery. But all around him, the Industrial Revolution was taking place, the railroads had arrived in America, and he wanted a bit of the action. Basically, he was a greedy man. And he then set about building the first railway across North America. But to do that, he had to go and work first for the Chicago and Rock Island Railroad, and there he met a man named Henry Farnham. And together, Henry Farnham was a true engineer. He wanted it for the real reasons, not for greed. But they made a good union, and they incorporated themselves into a railroad that was going to run from the Mississippi to the Missouri, straight across. And they called it the Mississippi and Missouri Railroad. During the building of that, their bridge across the Mississippi caught fire when the Effie Afton hit it. And they engaged a up-and-coming lawyer to represent them when they were sued. And his name was Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln won the day for them. And it's said that Abraham Lincoln, that's when he first came to the attention of the politicians. Now there was this was indeed a really big undertaking. Union Pacific were coming from the east, and the Central Pacific was coming from California, and they were racing each other. There was a lot of money involved, and one of Dr. Clark's biggest enterprises, he created something called Credit Mobilia, a company that was subcontracted to actually lay the track, because he controlled that company. So not only was he Vice President of the Union Pacific, he was also the man in charge really of the actual building. And he decided that he could make about $25,000 to $30,000 profit a mile. I'll tell you all about his corruption and how much money he made. All for the enterprise of getting the first railroad across America. Another talk I will be giving is on Tom Crean. Now, Tom Crean today is a very good friend of mine. He's named after his great-great-uncle, who was born in 1877, and he is a really true unsung hero of Antarctica. He was born on the Dingle Peninsula, which was a farm, one of 10 children, and he left there at the earliest opportunity, lied about his age, and joined the Royal Navy. The time he was 24, he was in New Zealand when Captain Scott's ship docked there to be stored up, ready to go to Antarctica. They had a problem with a crew member. Tom Crean stepped forward, and then it totally changed his history. He was also then recruited by Shackleton. Shackleton had met Tom on the very first Antarctic trip, and he went with Shackleton on Endurance to do another expedition. They were going to go right away across from one side of Antarctica to the other, cutting across the South Pole. But disaster really. The ship got trapped in the ice, and after a period of a year it was totally crushed. They had 3 lifeboats, and those 3 lifeboats they had to drag across the ice until they could get to the open sea, and they sailed to Elephant Island. At Elephant Island, Shackleton decided that one of those little lifeboats, they were going to sail 800 miles across to South Georgia. Yes, Tom Crean was one of the 6 picked to go. When they arrived in the whaling station, they had been away 2.5 years. And they were unrecognisable, and the whalers openly cried. It took 3 months with a chartered ship from South America to go back to Elephant Island and rescue every single sailor who'd set forth with Shackleton. It's a wonderful story. Thanks for watching the video. My name's Tony Allen. Just to recap, I've done 4 subjects: fighting organised crime in the UK haulage industry, helping to police the South African elections in 1994, building the first transcontinental railway across America, and finally Tom Crean, who's the unsung hero. My name's Tony Allen. I hope you've enjoyed listening and watching this video.